New on AM Extra, as the weather begins to change, we're moving into that cooler, rainier fall pattern. We're getting into our severe weather season. It's a perfect time to start preparing for the most extreme of elements.
And so whether we're talking about flooding, maybe an ice storm, a wildfire, or an earthquake, having an emergency kit is very important to make sure your family is safe and prepared. So one of the most important items in that kit, of course, water. So joining us in the studio with some preparedness tips when it comes to staying hydrated in times of a crisis, we have Bonnie Cushman with the Regional Water Providers Consortium. Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad you're here. This is good to talk about. Also timely, today is the Great Shakeout. Again, a reminder at 10:17, if you don't know why your colleagues are dropping under desks and tables. That's what's going on. So let's talk about this. If the big one happens and you don't have that emergency kit prepared, well, you probably should have. And there are reasons for that. Why should we, and where should we begin with that emergency kit?
So, like you said, the best place to start is with water. And we recommend having 1 gallon per person per day for 14 days. Plus, if you have pets, you're going to want some water. So that's a lot of water. So I brought with me a couple of examples of like where or types of containers that you could have. So there's the smaller single bottles, gallon bottles, soda bottles. Actually, these 2-liter soda bottles are stronger plastic than these little single ones.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so save a couple of these after your next grocery run.
Sanitize them.
Free containers.
Yeah. And then something like this is great to hide under a bed or, in the back of a closet. So you know your space best, right? So some of us live in apartments, some of us live in homes. So get containers that work for your home.
Absolutely. Just to make sure that you are going to be ready with enough, because you can, I forget the stat, you can live for several weeks without food, but only a couple of days without water to drink. So
well, and being prepared is, I mean, it sounds obvious to do, but I mean, let's take Florida, for example, your native state, where hurricanes you see coming from, miles and miles and days away. Earthquake, a little bit different. We can talk about the big one, but we don't know. I mean, so you really should take the time to do this.
Yeah, like you said, earthquakes, that's the big one that we're preparing for. But winter storms, we had bad winter storms last year. Or it could even be just as simple as a big main break, a water pipe break in your neighborhood.
So what are the 4 things that you want to do right now before you're dealing with the emergency to be prepared? Number 1 was that emergency prep, having the water source on hand or knowing where you're going to have that prepared. Number 2?
Number 2 is pretty simple as well. So this is a hose bib cover, and this is just as easy as sticking it on your outdoor faucet so it's nice and flat up against the wall. And it's going to protect it. A lot of people had broken pipes outside this last winter. So that's one thing. If you have a sprinkler system, you're going to want to insulate that as well and get that ready for winter.
Good thing to keep. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned the Great Shakeout today.
Right,
so that's something that we can drop, cover, and hold on. That's a muscle memory thing. So the more we practice, the more likely when the ground starts shaking, we're going to know what to do.
Well, and what about, too, just talking through with your family? Okay, if this happens and we're home, here's what we do. If this happens and we're at work, what are we going to do? I mean, I know friends who work on the west side of the city. Their kids' daycare is on the east side. If you have an earthquake in the middle of your work day, we don't know when it's going to happen. Actually making those plans or making a meeting place if you can't communicate, all those things that we don't always, think about.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. We actually were having dinner last night. I have a 10-year-old, and my husband and my 10-year-old Hazel, and I were talking about that. What would we do if there was an earthquake and we were in this room? What would we do if Hazel was at school? Yeah, absolutely.
You can also sign up to get alerts and make sure that you're going to get that emergency information.
Yeah, so publicalerts.org is the best place to sign up for alerts. These are local alerts, and it's the best way that first responders can let you know about an emergency in your area. So yeah, if your kid is in Clackamas and you're working in Multnomah County and you live in Vancouver, well, you're going to want to sign up for 3 different types of alerts.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, a lot to think about. And again, with ice storms and the big one, you got to think about all this. Definitely prepare ahead of time. I got to raise my own hand. I need to do this, so I am no different.
Same. We know
start
what we should
small.
do.
Start small.
Start small and
Water
start when it's not
critical there.
an emergency currently happening.
All right, Bonnie, thank you. This is great stuff. Appreciate you being in.
Thanks for having me.
And again, for more emergency preparedness tips and water wisdom, go to regionalh2o.org.
All right, it's 7:41.